there everyone, it's Marguerite from Wreaths by Marguerite. Today we're here on the YouTube channel to make this wreath. It's a storm door style St. Patrick's Day wreath with the fun little doggies on it. Gotta love that. This is an exclusive sign that I receive in a box that I receive each month. It's a storm door wreath. What does that mean? That means that it is under 4 inches deep when you're looking at it from the side. See that? This one is about 3.5 inches deep. The reason that's important is it allows you to put the wreath behind a storm door or a screen door up against your regular door without it getting crushed, because you have approximately 4 inches in most cases between a storm and a screen door and your regular door. If you try to put a regular wreath behind that, in between those two doors, you're going to get a really crushed wreath. Where with this, looking at it straight on, it still has a ton of ribbon. It really looks fluffy and it fits in the space without crushing it. So this is the one we're going to construct today. This one will be available in my Etsy shop. This one is not a kit because of the exclusivity of the sign. So let's get started. Okay, now even though this is not a kit, just to let you know, the kits come with written direction for how to do this style of wreath, as well as a thank you. We'll put that aside. The tools you need if you were doing this project on your own would be a ruler, some scissors. This is for curling your pipe cleaners at the end on the top level. This plastic needle, embroidery needle that I purchased at Walmart, is for pulling the pipe cleaners through the wreath, the ones that are on the back of the sign, so that it's a lot easier to do that. You can do it without the needle, but it helps with the frustration level tremendously. Some clippers, and then either a chip clip or just a little clip that will hold in place at the top of your mesh. You'll see that in just a few moments. The product that's in the box when you buy a kit is going to be a 14-inch wreath form with the pipe cleaners already attached in the correct positions. It's got to be a 4-ring wreath form with 6 crossbars, so that you can lay 6 pipe cleaners on the outside edge at the crossbars, and then 6 pipe cleaners on the inside in between the crossbars. So you have a total of 12. Then you're going to have a sign. In this case, it's a metal sign. When you get a kit, everything's going to be attached. In the case of the metal signs, it's super glued and hot glued behind the cable tie mount that we use on metal, because you can't staple the signs like you can with an MDF or a wooden sign. Then the pipe cleaners are attached. It takes 2 pipe cleaners to put on here, so there's a total of 14 in the kit, all placed already where it needs to go. You're going to get 12 to 13 pieces of deco mesh. That's the solid foundation of your wreath. The pieces will be cut in 20-inch lengths. In this case, it's 10 inches this way. You want anywhere from a 9.5 to 11.5 inch mesh this way for this style of wreath. And then ribbon. In this particular wreath, I'm doing 3 ribbons in each of the twist ties. So that means a total of 36 pieces of ribbon. To go with this style wreath, I went with a fancy 1.5 inch wide ribbon. I went with a dog ribbon with the black and white that goes well with the colors in the sign, because that's what you're doing. You're trying to match the colors in the sign the most. And then some shamrock with gold to tie all the gold in and the gold in the sign. So there's 36 pieces of ribbon that are cut at 12 inches in length. This is a 1.5 inch ribbon. This is a 2.5 inch ribbon. This is a 2.5 inch ribbon. So with this wreath, I chose one of the 1.5 and 2 of the 2.5. You can mix and match any combination, or you can even go with just the 2 2.5-inch ribbons. A lot of the makers out there are doing that now, but I just thought this would be a great combination. So I'm going to be putting him in the wreath this way with my favorite on top. I always recommend you put your favorite ribbon on top. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm not going to be as detailed as I am in a normal tutorial. This is just a wreath that I'm making to put in my Etsy shop, so it will be available along with some other things that are holiday specific. I might be making more, I might not, so always stay tuned on the Etsy shop to see what we have. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in the first layer of mesh. When you start out, you do the outside pipe cleaners first, and you usually have the pipe cleaners horizontal to you because you're going to put the mesh in vertically in the horizontal pipe cleaners. And we do the whole outside first. I usually skip and do every other one, then come back and do the other 3. So let's get this started. You lay it curl side down on the table. You use the ruler to find your center. This is a patterned mesh, so I got it right on the nose. It's 10 inches wide, so you want to put it in the center, which is 5. That's just a focal point for you to use to get from this end to that end. We're going to gather it into our thumbs and fingers, gathering it as we go, keeping it right up the center. So we get to the top, and it's kind of like a butterfly, or you're loosely holding it in your hands to get a circular design. You're coming over here and you're putting it in the wreath, putting it vertical to your pipe cleaners. So the pipe cleaner went this way, the mesh went this way. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Make sure that it looks circular. Making sure the outside edge is nice and round. Hold it there to adjust it. And then turn the edges under to help it hold to itself. Because if you haven't worked with mesh before, you'll learn one thing for sure. It's like Velcro. That's why it's always best to wear short sleeve shirts when you're building these, or roll up your sleeves when you have long sleeves. I never recommend wearing one of your better pieces of clothing, because the last thing I want to know is that you snagged it all up, because this stuff will snag it. Okay, loosely holding it in my hand to make that circle. Skipping one, going here. Putting the mesh in vertically into the horizontal pipe cleaners. So in the tutorials that I do, everything is cut and prepped for you except for the ribbon. The ribbon I have bundled for you just to cut on each end and then make those cute little V's. Okay, we're going to skip one and go to the next one. So that it's easier for you. I make the kits the way I do so you don't have a bunch of waste or extras, because let's face it, not everybody is going to use all the product on a roll of ribbon or on a roll of mesh. So why be left with extra? Making my kits to sell to you guys allows me to help you save some money in the long run. What I just did was I pulled a string off of the mesh, because all mesh frays. There's just no avoiding it. And like I said, it's like Velcro. It'll stick to itself. There's another loose string, so I'm going to cut that off in a second. Get that 3 times. Get my scissors out and get that. The less you handle it, the less fraying you're going to find that it has. Some of the better quality meshes, which is what this is, hold up much better because there's a combination of fabric and, hopefully I say this word correctly, polyethylene. Plastic is basically the English word for it, the non-scientific word. So now we're going to go around and do the other 3. I do it this way myself, not everybody does, because I find that the mesh lays flatter on the wreath when you do it this way. And since the goal is for it to be a storm door wreath to go behind a screen or storm door against your regular door, the idea is to keep it as thin as possible. That eliminates the possibility of it looking squished in that space. Of course you can put it anywhere, but behind a storm door or screen door is what its original intention was. For those of us that live in areas like I do, southwest Nebraska, where we have lots of wind and weather, we can put it behind the storm or screen door and it doesn't get crushed and it's protected from the elements, which is nice. Woo. Let's see, now the next one. Get that clip on the top and the center. It's a lot easier to do it without the ruler when you have a pattern on it, but just to show you, this is 10-inch mesh, so the center is 5 inches. So that's where that white line is. I just have to gather it up into my hands, into my thumbs, using the rest of my fingers to gather it, or as we like to call it in the wreath making world, scrunching it. Get that up in there. Toss that aside. Make sure it's round, put it in the wreath. The ultimate goal when you put this mesh in here like this is to make sure that the outside edge of the circle is nice and rounded with the cut edge over the cut on the outside over the cut edge on the inside. That allows you to give the cut edges a little more protection from getting frayed, and by doing that and making sure it's nice and round, you have a nice dimensional look on the outside of the wreath, and it's not sticking out all over the place. And then by doing 3 every other and then coming back and doing another 3, they tend to hold themselves in place better because, like I said, they act like Velcro. So again, just creeping up into the thumbs, gathering as I go, following that white line in the center because this has a pattern. You'll find a lot of the kits that I carry in my Etsy shop are done with a solid color deco mesh. In that case, it's going to be crucial to use the ruler so you can keep your eye on the center, putting that clip on the top and coming back to the bottom with the ruler and following that center. Watching the clip the whole time allows you to stay on center a lot better. Curl that under. All right, let's look at that. Okay, the first level is done. Sometimes the mesh is finicky and has a mind of its own and doesn't like to stay tucked under. And then if you ever have to adjust it, you can either hold the pipe cleaner and pull from towards the center out, never grab the edges to get that circle the way you want it to be. And now, since we pre-cut all our ribbon before the video, we can go ahead and start adding our ribbon in. Where with the mesh you had the pipe cleaners horizontally and you put the mesh in vertically, it's going to be opposite when you put the ribbon in. So now the pipe cleaner is vertical and the ribbon's going to go in horizontally, and we're going to gather it up the center and then do an inverted V because we want as much of the ribbon when we put it into the twist ties to face the outside edge as possible. Create about a 1-inch nub with the pipe cleaner, wrapping it up. After wrapping it one time tight, we cut off the excess and then we position our ribbon. And in this case, I'm going to do it the 1.5 inch at the top, separating them and popping those little bubbles it makes, turning it to a position that's most comfortable with for me. And on this side, we're going to bring the 1.5 inches out. So then I usually hold it and bring it out that way. Just like with the mesh, We want to make sure that everything's nice and tight and kept in there in such a way that it doesn't fall apart. And then also, just like with the mesh, when you're manipulating the ribbon, do not grab it from the tips of the ribbon, meaning down here. Even though ribbon is a lot sturdier than the mesh is, you can still cause fraying on the tips. We don't want that. You can always trim it off, but the less you handle it, the better. And if you do it from up towards the center, you're less likely to get that, and you're going to see it more in lower quality ribbons. We only use wired ribbon, or I only use wired ribbon. Most of the people that I knew only use wired ribbon, and the reason for that is you have more control. You can position it where you want to, and generally speaking, it'll stay there. Where a ribbon without wire in it, it's just gonna flop in the wind and go anywhere and everywhere. So we try to avoid using that unless it's at the back of the ribbons in a project. And those other ribbons can hold it in place. But I highly recommend only using wired ribbon. You just can't go wrong. And there's so many selections out there. I alone have an insane amount of ribbon and still always think I need more. And sometimes I really do. I won't say I'm addicted to ribbon, but other people in my household would say so. Also, how do you choose a color palette for your mesh and your ribbon? In this particular case, I looked at my sign. 99% of the time, I would say that the sign dictates what colors and designs and such I use on my wreath. It's not so important what the design is in your ribbon as the colors. So in that sign up there, there's gold. I have gold here. There's the emerald green. I have emerald green. There's lime green accents. I have that. And then there's black and white, which I have in the dog ribbon. And since the ribbon, since the sign has doggies in it, I put some dog ribbon in. You may or may not be amazed at how many people love dog wreaths. We love our fur babies, don't we? So we're getting close to finish on the bottom level. As you can see, I did 3 every other, and then I'm going back and doing the other 3. Making sure my pipe cleaners are tight on the first twist, and then twist it in an upward fashion to create about a 1-inch nub to tuck in. The ribbon may not be perfectly placed right now, but we do that at the very end because, you know, it tends to have, like I said, its own mind. So we get these separated. I hold it up there, grab ribbon up high to get it where I want to be. All right, this is our last set of 3 12-inch ribbons. They're called ribbon tails in this tutorial as well as in the instruction. Like I said, I used 2 2.5-inch style ribbons, and then I used 1 1.5-inch style ribbon. The mesh, how did I choose the mesh? Well, I just love this mesh that I ordered. I'd been fascinated with it since I seen it online, so I ordered some. And it has all of the colors, again, that are in the sign. You'll find when you're doing projects like this, that's really your motivation. And honestly, you could have 3 patterns, you could have no patterned ribbon. You could do all solid colored ribbons. You could do 2 patterned and 1 not. It really doesn't matter as long as you're staying with the colors that are within the theme of the sign. Okay, so now we're ready to do the second level. So I will bring the pipe cleaners up the center so I can add the next level of deco mesh into it. This is a fabric mesh. I think I alluded to that once already. What that means is there's fabric threads in the mesh as well as plastic. That's what helps it to be weather resistant. And in this case, it's a sign with that's black, that's, what do you call it? Metal. And it's UV protected, so that sign's gonna last forever. The ribbon's quality ribbon. The deco mesh is protected, and it's more than likely going to be behind the screen or storm door, so it's got that extra bit of protection. The only thing I say is, if you're like me, you don't want to put them on the front door. You want to put them in the house. So I usually have one on the outside of the door. I usually have one on the inside of the door. And I still do big fluffy wreaths, just like I still sell big fluffy wreaths. That goes on the living room wall. I figure, you know, I deserve to have a pretty thing on my wall too. Right? We all do. Okay, there's a loose piece of mesh, so I'm going to cut that off. It lets me. Okay, make sure you have a trash can if you're going to do a project with the storm door wreath. Bring these in horizontally. Put that clip on there. And when we use this mesh, I don't know if I said it earlier or not, but you always want to put the curl side down on the table of your mesh. You're going to get a whole lot less resistance. And in this style of wreath, it just looks better. In some of the bigger wreaths out there, the fluffier wreaths, there are other ways of using it, the mesh, where you put rolls at the end. But our goal right here is to keep it extra thin. You put those little rolls at the end, and that's going to make your wreath even thicker. Not what we're shooting for here today. Always remember to put your outside cut edge over your inside cut edge to protect that mesh so that it doesn't fray more. It's completely inevitable to get fraying with your mesh. Pardon. Put that clip on there. Pardon. Gather that mesh. As you noticed, I go back and forth between techniques of gathering the mesh. You do you. Whatever is the easiest. This is supposed to be a fun thing to do, not stressful. That's why I break it down in such detail when I'm doing an actual tutorial, so that no step is missed and you come up with a beautiful project. Now, if you're not putting this behind a screen or a storm door, you can avoid making sure that it's completely flat like it is now on our final 3 pieces. That's your choice. This is your project if you decide to buy a kit, and when you decide to buy a kit and do the project at home. There's guidelines, but nothing's written in stone. However you end up deciding to do it is your choice. I'm just giving you a guideline. There are some basic things you don't want to do, and you'll learn about that in the actual tutorials, which are free on YouTube. You just have to buy the kits. And like I said, when I ship you a kit, you get the base with the pipe cleaners already on it, so you don't have to do that work. Written directions if you want to do any on your own, if you decide to go further with this than just making them once in a while. You get the mesh cut in 10-inch mesh cut in 20-inch increments. You get all your ribbon, and you just have to put those V's at the end, which I call dovetails. Some people call them ducktails. Some just call them a V. And a sign. They're either going to be metal signs, or they're going to more than likely be what's called MDF. MDF is kind of like pressed wood with a, I don't know how else to put it other than a sticker on the front of it with the design. Also, if you would like anything made custom, I'm flexible. I'm willing to talk. I haven't had a challenge that I haven't been able to fulfill yet. There's always a first time, but I have one of my regular customers who's into very patriotic themed wreaths because their son served. He's a veteran, and we thank him for his service. But she wants one for each season. So I have a sign on order for a spring wreath for her, but yet it's going to have spring elements in it, but be patriotic. It's always fun going back and forth with her to determine exactly what she wants, to figure it out, and then finally get all the product in and make it for her. She told me recently that she never used to be into wreaths anymore, but now she's loving it. So it's always exciting when you can fulfill a request like that and get that kind of feedback. So definitely reach out. Okay, this is the last piece of mesh. And always remember to cover your outside cut edge with the inside cut edge. Always cover the inside cut edge with your outside cut edge, never grabbing it from the very edge. Grab it from the pipe cleaner. If it doesn't work, take it out and refluff it. Now, when I make these wreaths, I like to put in the sign before the last layer of ribbon. So I determine which pipe cleaners that I want to put at 12 o'clock and at 6 o'clock, as if this was a clock. And then separate the other 4 pipe cleaners outwards. This helps me center my sign without getting it way over here, way over here. I mean, you can do that if you want to add a bow to the wreath, which reminds me, if there is a bow you want made to match what you have coming, I can do that for an additional charge. And you can put the sign over here and the bow here, or the sign up here and the bow here. Or if you just want a matching bow to put anywhere else, we can do that. So I'm going to put it here, and then I'm going to look in the camera so I can make sure it looks centered. Yeah, that's about centered. All right, so this is where I take that little blue needle, and with making sure that the ribbon on the bottom layer is out of the way, I'm going to feed the pipe cleaner through the needle. Crimp the end so it doesn't come off the needle, and then pull it all the way through the wreath to the back. Make sure it's still where I want it to be. And then we always put them on like this in an X pattern. So since I did that corner, I'm turning it around. And always remember, turn your wreath around. Don't put yourself in a awkward position when you're trying to do this, or uncomfortable position, okay? Make it work for you, not the other way around, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I'm gonna look at it once more, make sure it's where I want it, and then I'm gonna put my hand on the sign and flip it over so that I can attach those 2 pipe cleaners to the frame so that it doesn't move. I press down on the wreath a little bit, but not a lot, just so that it's not too sunk in, but the sign is not too sunk in, but sunken enough. And always make sure the point of your pipe cleaner is facing down into the wreath and not towards the door. Last thing you want to hear is that you made a wreath for a customer and it scratched up her door. Also, I always use pipe cleaners that match the mesh, and the reason for that is so that if it's going to a customer, or if you are putting it on your door and you have a glass insert on your door, you don't see a bunch of mechanics on the back that are sloppy looking or look weird, if that makes sense, hopefully. Get that one in there, and then we go back over here and do the same thing one last time. Pull that needle through, pull it off with a pipe cleaner, if it will. Now I don't have to hold the sign, but always make sure your tabletop is clean when you turn it over so that you don't scratch it. Last thing you want is a scratched sign. Especially the metal ones, you can't fix that. And I try to attach the pipe cleaner or right where one of the pipe cleaners are on the back of the wreath as well. It's just one of my things. That helps to hide the pipe cleaner a little bit more. It blends in. Okay, so now the sign is neatly where I want it to be. Sit back down. You'll find that when you do these type of projects, you'll either stand the whole time or be up and down like I am. I usually do 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock last because I like that ribbon to sit on top of the other ribbons. It's just one of my things. We're gonna gather the ribbon, but on the top level, we don't make that inverted V unless you really want to, or if you think it's gonna bury the sign too much. I usually just spread it out. I just do that 3 times with the twist. And then again, I do every other one of the ribbon tail bundles, because I like to mix up the order that I have the ribbon on the wreath on the top level. It's just another way to give it dimension. Now this is what that dowel was for. You can use a pencil or a pen, something that's narrow. And then you just twist the pipe cleaner around. Twist the pipe cleaner around and make little curly cues, or what I like to call them piggy tails. And then you go back and you curl the ribbon with your fingers a little bit. Unless you want it to be really flat, then you would lay it completely flat for where you're laying it. I have the room. So since that's that way, and we're skipping, we're going to continue with the same layout for the ribbon. The folds in the ribbon, when you make the packets like that, allow you to know exactly where your center is, so you place it correctly in the pipe cleaners so that it's not long on one side and short on the other. That's no fun. And again, I'm moving the ribbon. Nope, I'm ribbing. Tongue twisted. I can't even say it. I move the wreath to make it easier on me instead of contorting myself to work on the wreath. You want to be comfortable. This is fun, right? I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Okay. So then, since I did the ribbon in that order, it's still going to go in exactly the same way, but I'm going to reverse the order, still keeping the dog ribbon in the center. 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to put the shamrock ribbon next to the sign and the 1.5 inch with the gold trim on the outside edge. See what I'm doing here? So that means it'll be, this design will be here and here as well. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can do it all exactly the same, or you can mix it up this way. I like to do it this way. It gives it more dimension. And like I was saying earlier with the ribbon, you can do solid colored ribbons and print and mix them and all the things. Or you can do all patterns like I did today. We just want to spread these out to cover the mesh. The mesh is beautiful, but the whole purpose of the mesh is to create a solid foundation for your ribbon and sign. So now I'm going to do the same as that one here. I had to think for a second. Gather that ribbon up, bundle up, put it in the pipe cleaner, twist it 3 times. Now if you don't want to do the little curly cues, the piggy tails, you can keep winding it like you did on the bottom layer, but wind it up about 2 inches because you're going to be hiding the cutoff stub behind the ribbon so that all you see is a little nub. You can attach embellishments, buttons, anything you can think of that would match, as long as you remember you still want to keep this wreath under 4 inches deep if you're going to put it on a front door with a screen or a storm door. So I'm going to go back and unwind these. So it's only 3. Oop. And then I'm going to do the opposite of this one. So it's going to be 1.5 inch on the outside, dog in the middle, and shamrock on the inside. Turn it again to make it easier on me. And then curl the pipe cleaner. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer anything you have questions about if I can. Or if I don't have the answers, I'll do my best to lead you in the right direction. As far as supplies, I get them anywhere and everywhere across the country. The sign in this wreath is exclusive, so you won't be able to find it anywhere other than from my business coach. He has a monthly wreath supply box that I am subscribed to, and this came in last month's box, which I thought was adorable. You have to be a member of that group to get these. We never know what we're going to get until we get it, and it's usually not a complete wreath kit. It's bits and pieces of things, and yeah, very unique signs. And this one's a lot of fun. I suppose you could put other colors in this wreath based on the colors of the nose and mouth, but I just think this was such a perfect match. So let's see, this is our final piece of ribbon bundle, 2, 3. I'm going to spread these out opposite of the ones next to it because we're doing that every other thing. Turn the wreath so that it's comfortable for me to work on. And after I get this bundle finished and the pipe cleaner curled, I'm going to stand up and look at it, make sure everything looks okay, and then I'm going to make sure all of the ribbon on the bottom layer is faced out to the edge so you can see it. Without pulling it from the actual edge of the ribbon, I lift it up and away from the mesh because, like I said, that mesh, it's like Velcro. And if you do construct your wreath sitting, it's always good to get up and look at it from a different perspective so you don't miss anything. Let's see. Get that there. Okay, now I want to make sure all my ribbon is facing as much to the outer edge as possible. Pop these little bubbles that happen from the gathering out where I can. Like I said, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, I like to make sure it's on top. I just think it frames everything better when you do that. So on that side it was under, so I need to do the same thing here to keep it cohesive. And then this last one, I need to just one more. I could fluff ribbon all day, I really could. I love ribbon. I'll go back and take a look at all of this. That looks pretty straight. Okay, turn it around. And there it is. This one's sticking out. I don't like that. Kind of curly. That's the nice thing about curl ribbon. You can do a little manipulating more than you can with ribbon that is not. Okay, there it is. Okay, a storm door wreath for St. Patrick's Day with these 3 cute little doggies on it. Isn't that adorable? I love it. This was not a regular tutorial because the sign is exclusive and I can't get any more, but this wreath will be available in my shop. I needed a few more things, like I said earlier, to provide for St. Patrick's Day. You'll notice that I went pretty quickly in doing this one, but you still got the visual of how and why things are done like they're done. In the regular tutorials, I also still do the overhead shots so that you can see every detail of what we're doing. If you'd like to purchase a kit, all the information is in the description for all the kits that we have available in the shop. If not, we're on Etsy. It's Wreaths by Marguerite on Etsy, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a great one. Bye-bye.